Kia ora koutou. I think how I'd like to start the kōrero now is just moving along from the panel, and we're really lucky in Lyme that we have all this beautiful mātauranga and strength and the people that have been in this place and space for a very long time. And I just wanted to relate that to the movie actually that you watched and this place. And if you notice that, you know, it has taken the whānau here a very long time to develop this place, how they want it to be their space. And I don't know whether you caught in the movie that Uncle Bruce, who was sitting there, and I think he was pretty chuffed he was on the video. Is he in here? Oh, okay. I think that you'll see that Uncle Bruce, there was a little brief moment when he said we had to buy back the land. And, you know, that really resonated with me because I've just known that he just lives out the back, you know, and actually that is a part of the process of place and using place and having our space, is that actually we've fought very hard for this to happen. And whilst some of us that have been to a few Lyme, we may become a little bit complacent and go, it's Lyme, yeah, cool, we're going to go somewhere awesome. But actually, that little whakaaro was actually way back in the day. I know that the Lyme Network in its fledgling days had to fight for their place. And actually, I really applaud those that were part of that kōrero. So kia ora to you and au mihi to you all. And just in case you haven't realised, and it was really demonstrated beautifully in the video, that Onuku is about the harbour. Onuku is about manaakitanga. And for those of you that potentially haven't got your glossary on you, manaakitanga is about how we welcome people, how we make people feel that they are part of this place. And for Onuku, it actually is about providing kaimoana, the seafood that Cam talked about, and you had a little sample in morning tea, and trust me, there's some more coming. But also about the practices associated with that. It's just not about going out and grabbing a few pawa or abalone, as you probably know it, off the rocks. Actually, there is a whole process that goes around that. It includes leadership. And Pere Tainui, who was one of the main speakers on that video, sadly passed away only about 2 months ago. And so this is his legacy. He has been teaching the youth of Onuku and Ngaitahu about mahinga kai practices. And that took his leadership, that took his traditional knowledge, that took his savvy in getting around health and safety issues. Trust me, that's been a bit of a focus today, hence the life jacket. But it's also taken a critical mass. And so the whānau here knew that if they were going to bring the whānau back, they needed to start right from our babies. And to you medical students, that's what we're doing by inviting you into this space and allowing you in the place of Indigenous health medical educators. You are the ones that we want to manaaki and bring through, because we're gonna retire soon. So so we really need you to do that. But manaakitanga here is about gathering kai, but gathering it the right way, having the supports, sharing it with others, bringing the next generation through, but always knowing where your place is. Kia ora.
Kia ora. And so I want to link the concept of mahinga kai and the point that it is a place of privilege and it's our right to practice it here in this place, to thinking about medical education and specifically Indigenous health curriculum, and thinking about that it's actually our right to practice Indigenous health curriculum in the place or the space of medical education. And just like, and I also want to pay homage to Pere, who unfortunately my last time here was for his funeral just a couple of months ago, when Tans and I came over, is that, sorry, lost my train of thought. that what he taught us about mahinga kai is that it is a privilege to be in this space, and that the purpose and why he did it was actually for the health and well-being of all of us that came here and were privileged by his manaakitanga. And I think that often we think about, but we're in the space of Indigenous health curriculum, and there's a whole lot of drama that goes on within our medical schools, but there's also, we need to remind ourselves about it's also being a place of privilege for us to be in. Because the reason that most of us are at and working in Indigenous health curriculum is because it affords us a different way to advocate for Indigenous health and well-being. So I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about all the skills and resources that are required to go and get power and crayfish out there. And I want you to think about what are the skills and resources that we need to enact and embed Indigenous health curriculum within our medical schools. Ready, and interaction from audience. I want to know what skills or resources. Pop quiz, love it. So 80s and learning pedagogy, but so efficient.
Leilon. Money. Oh yeah, we need money. Hell yeah.
Very good. What's it? Space, good, very good. So let's start with that.
Where are the funders? Yeah, I know, but where are the deans? Okay, just
very good. So let's just stay there for just a minute. Why do we need money? Okay, very good. To pay people? Yep, okay. What else do you need money for? To build the spaces. This is a beautiful example of that. Good. To build the spaces. Good, because our knowledge has value. Excellent. Why else do we need the money? Really, we all should know this is a predictive text in case our deans ever ask us. So this is practice. Why else do we need money? Why is it important to have a budget for embedding Indigenous health curriculum?
It gives you independence.
Good, it gives you independence. Awesome. In terms of developing your team and the curriculum?
Making your decisions.
Awesome. Good, excellent. So just in case you didn't hear that comment, it was around the budgets for enabling student recruitment, Indigenous student recruitment into the medical school space. Excellent.
Suitably acknowledge the Indigenous input, value it.
Good.
Not just as we value it, but in the financial way that we should do, that we would value in others first.
Good, excellent. So just an acknowledgement there of not just the staff that are employed by the medical school, but in terms of utilising the budget to support our Indigenous communities, our engagement with Indigenous communities, but also, isn't it also enabling our Indigenous communities pathways in to be have their knowledge valued in our space? Excellent. One more.
To retribute like elders and traditional keepers and build medicine gardens so that we can have access to those things.
That's beautiful. So just there for those of you that couldn't hear, she talked about resourcing particular components of the curriculum like traditional healers, healing gardens and other Indigenous resources to enable the indigenisation of the space that you take. Excellent. Okay, that's enough about money. Any other skills or resources? If it was just about money, it's always about the money, but there are other things. David? Resilience. What do you mean by that? Very good. Okay. So we're going to reinterpret David Paul there about I'm talking about in order to embed we do need safe environments. Because resilience is good to some level, but when you're being resilient, you're surviving, you're not thriving. So we need to think about safe environments and in creating self-environments in the spaces and the places we're in. How might we, other ways that we might create these safe environments? Good. Non-Indigenous collaboration and leadership. Wonderful. Language. Can you give me an example?
To have spaces where you can go in and see medical education within an Indigenous language.
Good, excellent. So utilising the Indigenous language in the teaching space. Dave?
So you need a space where you can work together and not be dispersed amongst the wider faculty and come together and talk and support.
Awesome. Actually, the literature shows that if we have a critical mass of an Indigenous health teaching team, we're more likely to retain those members. So when everyone is quite isolated and working independently, even on the same campus, it stops the creation of a safe environment. Excellent.
Space for ceremony.
Good, space for ceremony. So in our unit, we have what we call a whānau room, so a room that's big enough for when everyone wants to get together. And I know my colleague Bridget's here, they've got a beautiful one at their unit, and they have nice cups of tea and coffee in there, but just a space that encourages and nurtures a safe environment. Excellent. And I also see, you want to pick up on that point, Chance?
Oh, kia ora. I just also gave, and I think someone down the end also had the same comment around that peer support. So actually being able to have the time, one, and have the resource to get together as an Indigenous collective. Because when we do that, we are able to have this critical mass, but we're also able to have critical discussions. And if we're dispersed within faculty, that becomes quite difficult.
Definitely. And for those of you that have been part of Lyme for a little while, you'll know that actually some of this peer support comes via video link, via Zoom, via emails, and creating different spaces, not just face-to-face but in the cloud, that has maintained the peer support. So let's go. Any other ways that we can foster peer support or that you've found really effective? Lena?
I was just going to talk about teaching respectful behaviour.
Okay, can we stick with peer support first?
Sorry.
Oh, is that from your peers?
From
Peers.
peers, but also in terms of that safe environment.
Okay.
That this is a safe space, and in this space we are respectful.
Okay, cool. So negotiating a respectful environment is one of the points that Leland's raising around creating a safe environment. Are there any other comments, skills, resources that you've utilised to encourage peer support? Okay, good. Mentoring. How have you set the mentoring up? The right person for the right job. What do you mean by that, Marie? Good. Cool. So our own. Oh, that's. So our own personal traits. Yeah. Sometimes to get peer support, we have to be partially nice, don't we? So that people actually want to hang out with us. Yeah. Sorry, just a disclaimer, because this is the Lyme network, part of and I really loved Peter's comments about we need to be honest and navigate these spaces. And sometimes we may not want to work with one of our peers because they're just nasty. So we have to make sure that we're not nasty, that we're good, and that people want to work with us as well. Excellent. Okay, so we've got safe environments, peer support. What other skills and resources do we need? Pedagogy. Ah, you're speaking my language. Why?
The skills of how to teach.
Good, the skills of how to teach, yeah. Because most of us trained as clinicians first, right? And didn't necessarily take some education papers along the way. Very good. And I'd also challenge us that we're not just doing pedagogy, but we're also doing andragogy, because actually we're teaching adults. So the skill of andragogy means that didactic teaching should be buried with dial-up modems, right? So thinking about andragogy. Okay, so what are some of the educational tools you've found that have really helped embed Indigenous health curriculum at your medical school? What kind of educational tools have you used? Good, awesome. Partnerships with communities. And that raises another resource that we'll bring. Yarning circles, awesome. Immersion experiences, particularly where do you put the immersion experiences?
Out on community, on country.
Good. On community, on country. Good. Critical reflection sessions. Why?
Because it's a full of understanding your own place
Okay, awesome. I think, Huria talks a lot about the creating, and it's something that Tans and I have spent a long time talking about, is ensuring that we're not coaching our students to become benevolent to our community to the point that they paternalise their role. And so critical self-reflection hopefully helps people see that actually we don't want them to solve Indigenous health issues. We want them to work alongside and support us as Indigenous communities, reach our own tino rangatira, our own right to govern and to find our own solutions. So the types of education tools that we need to use needs to stay away from any type of benevolence promotion in our Andragogy, but actually seeing their place in the part of Indigenous health and wellbeing. Awesome. Did we pop up another one there? Oh.
Accountability and evaluation.
Good.
For students, what you're teaching them, that they're able to actually put it into practice and they're held accountable for that knowledge that
Good, awesome. So the importance of social accountability and how we roll that into our curriculum is a really important content issue. Good. Yes, definitely. So true partnerships, not just... And actually it's really interesting. A couple of years ago there was a systematic review done of social accountability in medical schools. And what it found is that actually every single medical school was putting students in the community for their experience and then taking them out. And there was no long-term sustainability in the communities. So actually it wasn't benefiting communities at all. It was just a burden on communities and really challenging us in the Indigenous health curriculum space. How do we create clinical environments? How do we create particular community-led initiatives that we feed our students into, but that the community continues to benefit the whole way along? And if we haven't got students there, then we turn up and help man those stations. So that's a really key point, and really important. So we've got, so you've got your hand up there with education innovation, and we talked about immersion there. Is there any other educational innovation that comes to mind that you're doing at the moment that you can't wait to tell all the Lime Network about? Oh, don't be shy, it's only day one.
Building partnerships between the students, the deliverers, the community, like building partnerships where that knowledge and that power is shared, and probably then a light bulb moment where it comes to our students the relevance to Indigenous education and what it means to medical delivery to our people. Good,
excellent. Kind of like in science they talk about bench to bedside teaching and kind of thinking about how that constructive alignment looks like between ourselves and our communities and where the students fit in. Beautiful, thank you.
At UBC in the postgraduate family medicine program, our Indigenous co-lead faculty position was split to be an elder and a doctor, and they're paid faculty.
Oh, that's nice. Sorry, she was just raising there about a sharing of a faculty position between an elder and a physician and them being equally paid. I think, to me, that's an amazing educational innovation. We might use that, UBC.
Just making sure it's a potentially safe environment, so it's not just about the doctors and the medical educator, but it's much, changing that to make it the whole practice and the university, the whole of the hospital, specialist,
I just feel exhausted thinking about that, but you're right. So actually, so the great point that was raised there is about how we're influencing the whole learning environment and the whole clinical environment, not just our little bit. And that does take a lot of innovation and a lot of different negotiation with different stakeholders. I'm going to try and aim for someone who hasn't put their hand up yet. Assessment of the educators. Yeah, excellent. Would you like to comment further on that one?
No, I think that's a really good point, because actually we've just recently had some dialogue around the ability of assessors to assess our Haora Māori content in a high stakes examination that aren't necessarily taught in Haora Māori competencies. So, and that was a really interesting dialogue, and we needed to call on some friends to allow our voices to be heard, but eventually we did get there, and I need to mihi to our other University of Otago whānau who helped support us through that, because there was some interesting discourse in that exchange, but we managed to get through there, yeah.
And I think it's a huge issue in Indigenous health curriculum that our students know more than our faculty, and the burden sits. Amen. Yay. The burden sits on often Indigenous health teaching teams. We're continually asked as Mahi and at the University of Otago that we should be designing curriculum for our peers, but no resource sits behind that. So we're like 2 for 1, and we're fabulous, but budget's important, but ethically it's wrong. If it's not backed by resource. So of course the biggest hidden curriculum is our peers, and how we navigate that in different spaces is complex but really important. So thank you for raising that, and also giving our own Indigenous health curriculum faculty the space to actually spend time critiquing mainstream. I think if I could do it all again, I would have spent not my first year trying to design a curriculum. You talked about starting from the beginning. I would have spent a year just trying to think of the correct word, kind of sitting in on all my colleagues and watching how their curriculum worked, and actually critiquing what was happening in that space that wasn't culturally safe for our Indigenous students and that was specifically perpetuating ethics. Sorry, Tom.
Kia ora, Richard's just got a...
Kia ora, Richard.
So there's a hand-in-hand 2 things. One is we need access to Indigenous knowledge in order to inform the curriculum. But we aren't going to get it unless there's a culturally safe framework for that. So there's the 2 things. Indigenous knowledge can come in a raw state, but in terms of how it's delivered and how it's looked after, we have to guarantee that the holders of that knowledge aren't going to be embarrassed by what we do with their money and with their...
I totally agree with that, and I think that's why the social accountability, where have they gone, is so important, because if what we're teaching actually doesn't align to the aspirations and the expectations of our community, we've missed the point of manaakitanga. We're not actually doing something for the well-being of our community, and we're in an institutional structure which values individualism over collectivism, and so the need to navigate that. That's right.
Cultural restrictors are really major thing, I think, for Aboriginal people that access mainstream services. People who get confronted at the desk if they've got to close the gap thing, and people say, well, you don't have Aboriginal. There's a real lack of cultural respect in the mainstream environment.
Yep, and I think that one of the biggest points about that is that that's what our students are seeing, and that's kind of part of the curriculum. And whether in our educational innovation and within our educational tools, we're helping our students and our peers identify that level of racism, both structural and systemic racism that continues to be sustained in the practice, so that we can have some changes. Okay, I want to think, we've just got one more. Any other resources and skills that we need to embed?
So one thing that we incorporate both our undergrad curriculum and postgrad family med curriculum is creating space for Indigenous stories and voices. So one of the things we do in undergrad is called a human library. We have various Indigenous community members that come, and the resident or the med students have to engage in an interview that's not clinical, that really utilizes like deep listening skills and gets their story, and the participants are allowed to stop if they feel like any questions that the students are doing are offensive or anything, but it really gives them the opportunity to hear their stories and understand their perspectives.
Excellent, thank you. Was there a hand up at the back?
You need to be able to influence and create a sense of urgency.
Definitely. At what level?
When decisions are made about resources, about curriculum, about student populations, etc.
Good. Thank you. Excellent.
And you can create that sense of urgency through accreditation standards.
Definitely.
Not necessarily just the stick, you can also do a carrot. And those and the accreditation can be done solely by the colonizers. That's the other thing.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think accreditation standards are really key, because assessment drives learning not just of students, but it actually drives priorities of medical schools. So being in that assessment and that systemic support's really awesome. I think now there's two others that we thought of before. My lovely assistant. And we've briefly talked about these points, but these are just ones that Tans and I thought about, was actually around research. So I'm going to talk to research and I'll let Tans talk to curriculum time. There's a need, there's all these amazing innovations that are happening in the Lyme network, but we're a little bit slow to publish. Two reasons. One, because we're too busy trying to do everything else, and second, because of publication bias and how hard it is to publish the work that we do. But really just an encouragement that there is a need to research, even if it's just at a descriptive level and then at a evaluatory level and then at more of other types of educational evaluations and assessments that we want to do, including utilising our community stakeholders and partnerships. But there's a real need for Lyme going forward to really to continue to embed this and get traction, is to work together as an Indigenous communities across the world to actually build this database up so we can continue to learn and support each other. Tans, I'll hand the curriculum time one over to you.
So I just want to do a quick non-biased poll, but how many of you work for institutions or faculty that have stated they have a focus on Indigenous health equity or just equity? E2? Oh, okay, hand up. Yep, a lot of you, okay. How many of you have enough curriculum time? My poll is done. Curriculum time is also part of the algorithm for equity. It's important. We're doing all this work and we need the time to actually bring our students on board and walk them through. So if your faculty or your institution has made a statement about equity, curriculum time is part of that equation. So kia ora.
I can ask all our, sorry, it's really loud. Yeah. If I can ask all those holding the placards up, not that we want to have a protest analogy, but it kind of works. If you can come up and stand by Odette.
That's the budget on it, yeah.
No, can you come in front of the stage? Yeah, so it's just so we don't have any bias towards the people to my left.
What do we want?
So, as you noticed, Tans and I have been wearing the Lifejackets. And Tans, would you like to explain why we are?
Well, it is because of the whistle, but I promise I won't blow it into the microphone. But actually, sometimes we find ourselves in positions where we actually feel like we're drowning. And but that's not the kaupapa of this hui. This hui is about actually embedding our kaupapa in the sand. So what I mean by that is the theme of the conference. Actually, we just need to wrap ourselves up in those things that actually help us stay afloat and then push through. So sometimes you just need to blow a whistle. I won't blow it. Oh, I feel like I'm on one of those like ads for the safety videos. Sometimes you need to blow a whistle. Sometimes if you've got a little light, you might need to turn that on. Other times you need to pull the life jacket and you just need to lie back and float because it actually physically isn't worth your time at that point with that person or structure. But the Lyme network is actually about a life jacket. Okay, so it has become a life jacket for every single Indigenous medical or health professional educator in this space, and also those that we've had to leave behind because we didn't have enough funding to bring them. So yeah, kia ora.
And so over the next 3 days, what we're really excited about as this year's hosts of the Lyme Connection is really to hear from each of you over the next 3 days, especially those that are doing presentations, about how you've embedded these issues and these elements into your curriculum. So kia ora.
Kia ora. And so... So kia ora, so just as the video, I might keep this is really cool. Just as the video stated that the whānau here, they put their rākau in the sand, they said we are going to build our whare here. They're steadfast and they have produced what they can honestly say is the most beautifulest marae with a raft of history, and they are able to carry out what they feel is their kaupapa, which is manaakitanga, because they've been able to line up all of those skills and processes. So the next bit is actually to show you manaakitanga. So the main kaupapa of today wasn't really about workshops and listening to people that are really intelligent, talk. Actually, the main focus of our day today is about manaakitanga. And we're going to show you manaakitanga. So for the rest of the time here, it's just about sharing kai moana that has been gathered under traditional methods in the beautiful new wharenui, spend time with each other, kōrero, talk story to our Hawaiians, whānau. You can take time at any stage to go into the wharenui and sit and reflect, but please no food, no shoes, no water, no drink, and just enjoy. So kia ora. So before we sign off, I just want everybody to say one word with me in te reo, and James, you might want to cut it because I'm going to cut it in a minute. Yeah. I feel like this is cool. It's manaakitanga, okay? So I want us all to say manaakitanga. So ano? Manaakitanga. Ano? Manaakitanga. And now say it with love. Manaakitanga. Kia ora. Enjoy.